All right, good evening. Welcome to the special Board of Trustees meeting for April 15th. We will start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, so last week at our board meeting, I had touched on the situation we were in with the air packs. Chief Gray and Deputy Chief Nash Alexander did get confirmation from FEMA that our situation that we're in could count as an emergency situation because our air packs expire before the grant is awarded. Under normal circumstances, pre-COVID times, we would have already known beginning of winter if they got it or not. But because they bumped the grant time frame back, that pushed it all back. So what that means is that should the fire department still receive that grant in, is it July? I think the summer is what they
planning to do. Summer, but
yeah.
I think they have
If they should receive that, we can reimburse ourselves for the cost of doing this. Which was good to get that approval. In order to be eligible for that, you have to have FEMA approve it for you, and which they did. So to that end, and I believe in your board packet is the newest MES quote, which is cheaper than the original one that we had, which was going to be about $260,000. This one is for $223,575 and 50 cents.
How many air packs is that?
Well, that's the 52 air bottles. If you look on the, it's 8. If you look right on the front, you've got 18 of Scott X3 Air Pack Pro SCBA.
Yep.
26 packs.
And then you've got 8 of the next, 26 snap change cylinders.
Gotcha. Those are the big ones, I'm guessing.
Yep, let's see, 4 Vision, 18 of the Vision C5 face pieces, 4 of the next part, 2, they got all the quantities listed
Yep.
right there of what this gets us, so. Yeah, so I touched on briefly at the meeting, if we were to get a loan, Les had pulled some numbers from Glens Falls in order to do that. So initially we had him run the numbers for $260 because that's what it was looking like it was going to cost. For $260,000, the loan being 3 years, our yearly payment would be $86,000 plus interest. If we did 5 years, it'd be $52,000 plus interest. If we bonded $200,000, it would be 3 years at $66,000 plus interest, 5 years, $40,000, and then down on to $160,000. If we bonded $160,000, 3 years would be $53,000, 5 years would be $32,000 plus the interest. Which of course, that would be something we would have to add to our budget. So if we were going to do with between $30,000 and $50,000 payment, we put in our budget and then probably seek to use fund balance to offset it. So we'd still be spending fund balance toward making the loan payment. What I handed you was our year-to-date expenditures from the operating statement. So our year-to-date expenditures are $1,383,327, which means we still have $258,745 left to spend. So I did go through, there are still some larger items out. If you look at all the breakdowns, you can see year-to-date versus what we budgeted. So I had Les do a cash flow and kind of map out where he thought we'd be for the rest of April spending and where we would be for May spending. And on that cash flow sheet, I had him put in there for April's expenditures. You'll notice if you go down to miscellaneous expense, it says Chief's truck line. He should have changed that. There'll be 223 in the April column. That is the air pack money. Because I said, run, if we budgeted and paid the air pack money right out of our budget, what that would do to us. So on his projections, it is doable. We will end up be spending a total of $1,530,000 for the year, which is over our budget, and it seems like it is, but in reality, it's not, because this cash flow is calculating what's in our bank account. So when we ended the year last year, when we did our AUD, we had $166,000 of unassigned fund balance. That unassigned fund balance, that is in the total number that you see starting in June. So when you look at the total that we started with in June, 665,775 sitting in the bank, 166 of that is our fund balance, and the rest is from taxes. So Les does feel confident that should we expend this money right from our regular operating budget, we will end the year and be okay, that we won't be over budget. We have already so far, according to Les's calculation, our revenue, he has us at, on our operating statement, our revenue is at $1,349,000, is what we budgeted. And on his operating statement, based on what he knows that's still coming into us for the year, he has $1,415,000. So that's 66 grand more than we anticipated, which is why we're going to be okay when we end the year. So it's tough to make a decision about such a big purchase like this, yet at the same time, this is the point of having money in the bank. This is the reason to have that fund balance. So when there does come a purchase like this, we have the option to just buy it outright as opposed to getting a loan and increasing taxes for it.
When do the air packs themselves actually expire?
Closer, I believe it's the, like summer, fall time.
You said when the air packs would be,
What's that?
when the air packs expire or the?
So it's the bottles that,
Okay,
are
52
expired. So
bottles.
May, and it's tricky, because May, the bottles expire. But as long, we
I
can
remember
use
this from
them,
last year.
we
Okay.
cannot fill them.
Okay, so we could, this is what we talked about last time, that we could get new bottles, but that would only kick us to the fall.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
okay.
and so we looked at, we reached out to every avenue to see if we could find some used bottles that even say if they only had, they had 5 months, you know, to some departments, that's like nothing, they must be garbage, but to us, it would depend,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
a lot. So it would have got us through the grant sessions, and then we'd have known all the way, but we couldn't even find used ones.
Okay.
Right, and if we didn't, if FEMA hadn't given us that clearance that yes, should you win the award, you can reimburse yourself, so they said, no, you can't, I would have pushed for, let's just get the air bottles we need to wait for them to see, you know, let's get the very least, so that way we can see if they win that grant award, because you can't reimburse that. We would just have extra bottles that we would have purchased ourselves at $30,000, and then the extra from the grant itself. But since we've got that assurance from them that yes, you may reimburse yourselves because of the way the timing
Mhm. factor,
and that they will be expiring prior to the grant award. So yeah. So that's, you know, and that's the whole point of having fund balance and money when you start off the year, is that there's gonna be that buffer. You know, I think each year we've slowly built when we started, it was like 50,000 one year, and then we didn't use that in the next year, and it was up to 100, and you know, so yeah.
Okay, so if I'm reading the projected cash flow
Yes.
correctly, if we spend the 223 out of the general fund outright at the end of April, our fund balance will be 196,961. Am I reading that correctly?
Which total are you at? We're
If you-
196?
Yeah, if we're.
Oh, yes, the
April
monthly
column.
cash balance. That's what our monthly cash balance should be.
Okay.
If the spending is in line with what he has listed here. He's got the payrolls for April in there, benefits payment, controller, I mean, I know there'll be some other minor ones, because this is typically when the fire department, do you do your hose?
So I
testing
got
in April or May?
pump testing and services actually tomorrow. And then we have hose testing, I believe it's in May. And we always do it this time of
Right, because I
year.
think you're under, and a lot of that fund balance comes from us ending the year in our departments are under balance. So some of that 160 from last year, fire department was well under balance, under budget last year, because in April and May, when the COVID shut down, they couldn't purchase many of the items that we would have purchased in April or May. Because you guys are at, like, even now, general repairs for the highway department, we have budgeted 71,000. At this moment, they've spent 46, so there's at least 24. Fire protection, you guys have, according to this, 38 grand left in your budget to get through April and.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I don't
other than
think
those two
was.
things, I mean, our gear's been bought and paid for. I mean, we're down, I mean, unless,
Right.
knock on wood, we didn't have any major breakdowns, everything else has been purchased.
Yeah, and that's basically too, I mean, we're so close to the mark too, I would definitely tell the department heads, okay, only stuff that's needed for April and May, no crazy purchases, because we're gonna be trying to squeak out to get these air packs and be able to end the year in good shape.
And this doesn't compromise what we planning with the budget, where we use some of the fund balance to sort of offset the.
Right,
Correct.
right, as long as we end the year with $50,000, that covers the fund balance going forward. Because that's what we assigned in this current budget cycle moving forward.
Yeah, it says right here in our budget, in the package you gave us, we're using 50,000 of fund balance, so.
So we do have to end the year with at least 50 in there.
Last one has to be off by 150%.
Which in past years, like last year, or this current year, we had budgeted, what, 16,000 of fund balance? We know we're not gonna pull that 16,000 from the fund balance for our regular budget. Some years, simply because revenue comes in higher than we anticipate. A lot of that is due to, I mean, this year, the higher revenue is gonna be coming from the sales tax, because the county did so well,
Mhm.
because of all the online purchases, and everybody's shopping within the county. So our county that we reside in actually ended up faring a lot better than a lot of other places in terms of revenue. So on the cash flow, Les is projecting that even with spending this, we would end the year with cash in the bank of 124,124.
Do we need I see there's no motion.
I did, because I didn't know, I didn't have them put that in because I didn't know which way, I wanted to present the option. Here's what it would take to do a loan. If we actually wanted to do the loan, we would not be adopting this budget tonight. We would wait and have Les have the numbers. Obviously, the, 50,000, we would say, okay, we're gonna commit that from fund balance and have and that's the thing though. If we do a loan and commit 100,000 in fund balance to cover our regular budget, so we don't increase the levy, that means next year, you're gonna have to have 100,000 in fund balance. The year after, you're gonna have 100. Whereas if we purchase this out of our monies
Right.
we're ending the year with, it's done. There's nothing you have to do beyond that.
Well, with all of that said, I will make the motion to use $223,000 from the general fund to make this purchase outright.
Okay, so let's get the exact amount. What is it, 223,
575
575 and 50 cents?
and 50 cents.
Use 223, 575, 50 from general fund to purchase SCB. And so is that, will that, Sue, just put SCBA, air pack SCBA?
Yeah,
Air pack SCBA equipment.
and I'll second that.
Okay, so let's see. SH, second SR.
So yeah, I didn't want to push it, but I mean, if we want to talk about other options, we absolutely can, but this just seems to be a no-brainer.
I would hate to tax people more on money that we've already taxed them on this money. Let's use it, that's what it's there for.
Well said.
And why would
Well
we get
said.
a loan on something that we have the money for, like?
Well said.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
There for moments like
this is what we've been working toward for the last 5 years, is when these larger purchases come up, we can take care of them and not have to tax more in order to do that. And as long as we end the year with 50,000, that's all we need to end it with. You know, it's been great to have hefty fund balance years, but at the same time, that's what it's there for. It is to spend on the services for the village.
Absolutely.
So any further discussion before we vote?
And so the fire department, you guys are going for a grant, obviously, as we've been talking about.
Right. It's the grant, it's all been sent in.
Great.
We're just waiting on them. We also have and we've talked to Carmen and Steve about it, we've also have a long-term plan for this. So so if you look on the sheet, there's many parts to this, to the air pack.
Yeah.
So when you say the air pack, well, there's a frame and all the strapping and the mechanical part of the pack. The bottle is the other big component, and then like the mask.
Yep.
So some of that, I mean, in one fire or something, you know, we could destroy any of that, you know, really quick in a fire. But the bottle normally, if nothing goes wrong with it outside of just normal life, is 15 years. So our plan, long-term, and this is if, you know, we stay in charge, I mean, new leadership could do something different, but our idea is, say, in 5 years, to take about a third of them, deem them surplus, and sell them to some department that maybe can't afford new, buy a third new. So now we get them split up, instead of having, you know, the 56 bottles, we could have it in smaller groups.
Yeah, okay,
you know,
you said 15 years, so yeah,
15,
5 years, 10 and 15.
Yeah.
If you segment, you know,
You know,
out, then the village would never be in this position again to have
And
to.
then we're only looking at buying a third of the bottles. You know, the packs last a little longer depending on usage and that. But yeah, that's our long-term plan.
Glad to hear it. Well said.
Anything else before we vote? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then next up, we usually handle this the last week of the month, but since we were having a special meeting, Lance was like, do you want me to put the budget on there? And I said, sure, but it's totally dependent on what we do with the air packs. So the first motion would be to approve the 2021, 2022 budget as presented. That is in there. All the worksheets, still the same from our last week's public hearing. He does have to change the cover photo. He's got the date for the budget hearing on there still. I think it would just say preliminary budget, but that's okay.
So not to be chicken little about this, but let's say hypothetically, Les's projections do not pan out at all. And after we spend all of this money, we do not have $50,000 left in fund balance. What would we have to do? If we pass the budget tonight and it turns out at a later date, we don't have this $50,000.
We wouldn't be able to levy anymore, because what we passed tonight is what we're levying against the public.
Okay, so we would just have to work.
We'd have to figure out where to make cuts.
Gotcha.
Right, we
Gotcha.
figure
That's
out,
what I was-
okay, we know we're gonna be 50,000 short.
Yep.
We need to make some cuts and figure that out, because we can always not spend it.
Yes.
Even after approving it, we can say, no, we'd rather not, but we could do that.
Okay.
We could do cuts.
Just curious.
Two, we always know our revenue, we do anticipate our revenue kind of more moderately. And that is good, because a pitfall sometimes is to do your revenue right up to the max.
Yeah.
To help keep the levy low, but then you don't get that, and then it's a real problem.
For sure.
But we're already projected to receive
Yeah.
about 60 grand more than we anticipate this year, and more than we budgeted. So that should hopefully, that's why I said, as long as we have some leeway for 50,000,
Yep.
we're fine if we don't have 100 in there anymore.
Yep.
We're fine, fine if it's lower. But yes,
Okay.
Steve's answer is correct. We would make cuts
Okay.
and make ourselves get through the year.
Makes sense.
So yeah, so you see that on there would be a total appropriations of $1,484,475, which gives us an adjusted tax levy of $1,061,176.43, which gives us a tax rate per thousand of 14.5531 with an increase in the tax rate of 9.74. So the first motion would be for the budget as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then the second one motion would be for the tax rate. We actually have to adopt the tax rate, which is the 14.5531. So that's $14.56.
I'll make the motion for that.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the last one would be for our schedule of salary and wages, should be at the far back. That is taking all of our budget numbers and putting in the proper pay rate to go along with those. Just want to make sure the cleaner is at, yep, building cleaner.
I'll make the motion to approve the schedule of salaries and wages as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and if there's no further business, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Probably no discussion, but I'll ask it anyway. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone.
I need to say for future reference,